Hi everyone, it's Kate from the Fold Line. I am back to talk all things Sewing Bee. We are week 5, which means we're, that's halfway through. Before I get into this, a couple of bits of housekeeping. First, Patrick Grant, obviously here with ESME. I interviewed him last week and I spoke about all stuff to do with the Sewing Bee, kind of behind the scenes stuff, the questions that basically I and you guys had all wanted to ask him. So I will pop a link down below if you haven't seen it yet. It's a nice one. If you're sewing, it's quite a good one to just pop on because you can kind of listen to it and sew. Second thing is we got an email from someone last week about kit. So when the show goes out, I am obviously taking my lead from the show. And during the show, the pronouns that they use for kit were he, and they use that the whole way through. I usually double check. So I then went onto their Instagram profile, had a look, no mention of pronouns. So I just went with the show. And since then, they've decided that they would like to use they, them. So I wasn't sort of, it was just a lack of knowledge. I didn't know that they changed their pronouns. So apologies to anyone that I offended. It was not, I just didn't know. So let's get in. I'm sorry if I sound a bit croaky. I've got such a manic day today. Such a manic day. I've just got up and I'm filming really early. So it's actually not even 6 o'clock yet. So that's why I've had a cup of tea. I've barely spoken to anyone, but now I get to talk to you. Right, let's get on. So it was Zero Waste Week. Very excited about this. We were all like, "Oh yes, this is a really great theme for this week." So the first challenge that they had was a workwear jacket, a zero waste workwear jacket. So anyone who hasn't come across this before, and obviously you saw in the show last night, you don't get a traditional pattern. You get a page with all the measurements, and you draw directly on the fabric. It means that if you make a mistake cutting one pattern piece, everything goes wrong. And we saw that in the show last night. Obviously, when you're doing this at home, you probably bought some spare fabric in case this happens, but it was stressful watching. I don't know if anyone else found it stressful. I definitely found it a little bit stressful. But pattern-wise, we actually have the perfect pattern. So it's from Birgitta Hemmelson, who is a zero waste designer. She is fantastic. If you haven't, I'll pop a link to that and I'll pop a link to all of her patterns down below. Go and have a look because they're just really fantastic. This pattern was like virtually, it was so spot on. So boxy kind of workwear jacket. You can see from the pictures, it's got patch pockets, very similar to the ones that they had. The main difference is their patch pocket had a curve on it, which I thought was very unfair, to be honest, in the time that they had. Then they had this it's got this lovely kind of collar, buttons down. It's just, it's almost perfect, this pattern. So we were absolutely delighted when we saw the challenge because we were like, oh yeah, I know. So that was a very easy hunt out for us because we exactly knew the pattern. Then they had the upcycling challenge where they were given a tent and they had to make it into an outfit for a festival, which was actually a really fun challenge. I feel like the upcycling challenges, some years have just felt kind of so bizarre, but this year they've been really good, or maybe it's just the contestant, I don't know, they've really worked this year, I thought. And then we got onto the made to measure, and the theme of this was make, do, amend. So they had to use items of clothing, old items of clothing, to make something new. It was actually really lovely. Quite a lot of the things that they made were quite sentimental. Items of clothing belonged to someone that wasn't there anymore. And yeah, it felt actually quite like a special challenge. So let's talk about what everyone made. First up, Kaz. Hers was absolutely incredible. So the thing that she did, which made her life very difficult, and you also have to bow down to how incredible she is that she made something out of denim, like a denim strapless jumpsuit. The thing that is a nightmare for her is that she had to quilt, basically almost like make the fabric before she even got going. So she had to sew all the bits together and then had to basically start making her outfit. So she made this sort of strapless jumpsuit. It had pleats in the front, kind of wide-legged. I thought it was really clever. All the different types of denim together, it just worked really fantastically. So pattern-wise, I thought we were going to find, I thought there would be a commercial pattern for this, but there really wasn't. So we've got an Etsy one. It's from Pattern Logger, and it's called the Wide-Legged Jumpsuit. It has the strapless features. The trouser leg might be a little bit wider than I would have wanted, but to me that felt like quite a close option. So that was our first one. Next up we had Dan. Dan's was great actually. He was using some t-shirts that he'd had from a, I think it was like a family Christmas, and it was really clever what he did. He got the t-shirts, he sliced them up and he wove them together, so he almost again created his own fabric. So pattern wise for Dan, it was like a high necked halter neck dress. I thought we'd find this. So basically what I found is the top half of the dress, and the bottom half is basically like a full circle skirt. There was quite a lot of flare in it, but it is the Simplicity 8330, and this is actually, we had this in a couple of weeks ago I think. But it had the same sort of seam lines and that high neck, so I thought that worked quite well. Next up, we had GAYNOR. She was using 2 items that she'd had, and she'd worn them to like special events, and she made a sort of skirt with a little waistcoat. So I think we did quite well on this. For the waistcoat, we went for the McCall's 8442. It just felt like quite a traditional shape and similar sort of style to what she had done. So we were quite pleased with that. The skirt was quite close, but if anyone's got any suggestions for any of these patterns, let us know. So we went for the Fibre Mood Bruna skirt. Hers wasn't quite as short as this, but all the same construction details are there. So we thought as a skirt option, this actually worked. Next up we had Orla, and she was making something to wear for Christmas Day, and she had 2 items. So one was a kind of green velvet, I think something that her mum had bought and not ever worn, and the other item was a skirt that was left to her by her auntie. So it was like a very special kind of, I felt like it felt very special that people were using stuff that was so personal. So she made this sort of tunic, and it had this kind of low, like kind of classic tunic shape with this sort of cutout down the front, long sleeves, and then these kind of quite big pockets. So I thought that the McCall's 7408 would be a really good starting point. Perhaps not perfect, but I thought it would work really well. It's got the same feel, it's got that kind of cutout at the front, and you'd be able, using that pattern, to kind of create something similar to her. So next up we had Stuart. He used his dad's old shirt, he was an accountant, to make the top, and then he bought a sort of tailored tweed jacket to do the bottom. The top had this kind of interesting detail. It was kind of cut quite straight, and then it had these 2 straps that kind of went up and over. And then the skirt was quite simple. He'd used quite a lot of the jacket to kind of create the skirt. So pattern-wise, I thought the Simplicity S8594 would work really well for this. It's actually a dress, but the top, if you just wanted to create that, the top half was perfect. It had the same feel with the neckline. And then for the skirt, I picked the Tammy Handmade Simi. I thought that was quite a nice feeling. It's buttoned down, which was like his. Obviously, it's never going to feel exactly the same because he'd used a proper tailored jacket and altered it, but it had the same sort of feel. So I feel like those 2 would kind of create the feel of his outfit. Next up, Kit. Now, they'd also used denim like Kaz, and they were using, I thought it was interesting actually, because I felt like Kaz had used quite a lot of the denim that didn't have stretch. It all felt quite similar, and Kit was saying that they'd used all the denims were different, so some had stretch and some didn't. Some had stretch in different directions, so it actually made it quite complicated for them to do. So the dress had this kind of deep V-neck, and it was kind of panels, and all the panels were a different type of denim, so it created this sort of ombre effect. So the pattern that we chose was the Vogue 9292, and I actually felt like this, I was really pleased with this. I felt like it's very similar. It's got the same feel, it's got the same seam lines. So if you did want to try and recreate this, I felt like this would be a really good starting point. It's actually such a beautiful dress. It's one that I always look at as like a grown-up dress, and then obviously never make it, but it felt, it's a good one. Then we had Jess. Now this was the pattern that we really struggled with. Anyone has got suggestions, because when she was sewing it, I could see that she was using a commercial pattern. So I know that it was a commercial pattern, but we looked for ages and I just couldn't find anything that was right. So it was V-neck, it had little like peplum, and a kind of a channel, like a kind of ribbon that went all the way around and tied on just underneath the bust, and then it was a panelled skirt. Spent ages, I mean, Rachel and I spent a long time, and we did not come out on top for this, so let us know. But two options if you wanted to sort of recreate the look. There is on the By Hand London website, they've got a blog post on how to create a full circle panelled skirt, so I'll pop a link down to that. So that you could create your own, which felt very similar. And then also had this little, the top is from Etsy, and it's from Nadia Threads, and it's a tie front top, and I thought that was kind of perfect. It felt similar, so together they felt quite close. Last but not least, I think we did really well. It was Yasmin. She made this little like romper with Go Days in, and it was a test drive for something she wanted to wear to her engagement party. And we found it's on Etsy. It's from Studio Sardo, and it's called the Hollyhock Bundle. And I'm pretty sure this is right. It's got Go Days in it. It's a little romper. There wasn't a huge amount of other options. So I'm fairly sure that this one is bang on, which is lovely to report. So that is it from us this week. I hope that you found something good in there. Let us know your thoughts on other pattern options, because we might have, you know, we could always do better. And yes, I'll be back next week with the next instalment. Bye.